So hello, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon if you're joining from Ontario, like where I am. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm thrilled to welcome you to today's session called So You've Been Offered a Commission. Now what? I'm happy to be spending this next hour together with you. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Stefani Truant, and I'm the founder of Truant Artist Management, a boutique agency that works exclusively with composers. Before launching TAM, I worked in artistic planning with the NAC Orchestra for over 20 years, including 16 years with the National Arts Centre Orchestra in Ottawa. Most of that time, I was on the other side. I was researching composers, programming chamber music series, and commissioning new work. And there was one thing that I saw again and again. There's often a gap between how composers think opportunities happen and how they actually happen inside the organization. I'll be honest, most commissions don't come from cold submissions. They come from relationships, trust, timing, and conversations, sometimes months or even years earlier. And once a commission does come along, what happens next? Your communication, your professionalism, the experience you create for your collaborators often determines the relationship you build with that organization. Every commission is both a piece of music and a professional relationship, and organizations remember both. So today, I'd like to pull back the curtain and talk about the big picture, how commissions actually begin inside of an organization, how organizations make decisions, what helps you position yourself well, and what it really takes to navigate a commission successfully from the beginning to the end once you have one. The goal of this session isn't to tell you how to write your music. Of course, you all know how to do that. This is about agency and what you can control, your visibility, the relationships you build, your communication, how you communicate, and the professional habits that build trust over time. Careers in this field are rarely built on one moment. They're often built through momentum. And momentum comes from consistency, artistically and professionally. So let's start by talking about what a commission looks like from the inside. Why am I here talking about this today? As I mentioned, I worked for 20 plus years in artistic programming. I first started out with the Toronto Symphony, where I started to build relationships with composers, both Canadian and international. I got to work with important Canadians like Jacques Etu, R. Schaefer, Kelly Marie Murphy, and Alexina Louis. I even met John Weinsweig and Oscar Morowitz before they passed. I also built lifelong relationships and friendships with then emerging composers like Andrew Staniland, Abigail Richardson, and Vince Ho. And I have very fond memories at the TSO of working with Henri Dutilleux, James Macmillan, John Adams, Esa-Pekka Salonen, and Magnus Lindberg, to name a few. When I then moved to the National Arts Centre Orchestra, who you see on stage there with Alexander Shelley conducting, I became known as the composer person because of all the relationships that I had developed at the TSO. And over the years, this led me into fully managing the new music plan. I was commissioning new works, developing concert series like the Wolfgang Sessions, new music chamber series, creating the Carrefour Composer Residency, a professional development program for emerging composers in orchestral composition. And through that work, I saw firsthand how relationships with composers develop over time and how organizations make decisions about who to work with. It was after attending the conference Classical Next in 2015 in Rotterdam that I was inspired with the idea to create a management agency specifically for composers. Fast forward to 2024, I left the NAC Orchestra ready to create TAM. And now with TAM, I support composers from the other side. I champion their works as their representative, worrying about the details, pushing for projects, clearing the noise so they can focus on creating, all while helping them see the big picture. So how does this all tie into commissions specifically? Coming back to that gap about how composers think opportunities happen and how they actually happen. Sorry, there's a helicopter flying overhead. Did I get cold emails? All the time. I read them. I often listened to the listening links attached. I checked out their websites. But if there wasn't an immediate fit, I didn't always write back. It didn't mean I was ignoring the composers. Often it just meant the timing wasn't right at that point. And timing is a big part of how opportunities can happen, as is consistency. Organizations don't just remember the piece, they also remember the experience of working with you. You don't want to be remembered as someone who was difficult to work with or demanded too much or missed deadlines or worse, just completely ghosted them, all of which happened to me many times, I can share. It's worth emphasizing this again. Every commission is both a creative project and a professional relationship. So let's start by talking about what a commission looks like from the inside. I'm going to specifically talk about this process through the lens of orchestras, since it is what I know. You get the email. We'd love to commission you. Maybe this has come out of the blue, or maybe it's been after careful communication. Naturally, excitement sets in, you do your happy dance, want to tell the world. But of course, this is the time to slow down and really carefully think about next steps. Most orchestras will plan about 2 seasons out. We're currently halfway through the 25-26 season. Most are launching their 26-27 season, or soon will be. This means they will also have 27-28 mapped and likely a skeleton of 28-29. So by the time you have received this email from the orchestra, they've already had many, many discussions about this commission. They know specifically why they want you for this piece. They've outlined the entire process for it in their planning process. They know where they want your piece to premiere, on which part of the season, on which concert, who's conducting, if it's the music director or a guest conductor. Does it open the season? Does it close the season? And they also know programmatically how they want it to fit within the concert itself and if there's a specific theme. They will also know their budget for your commission, and also a key point, the estimated budget for the concert itself on which your piece will premiere. This will cover everything from artist fees, production logistics, subs or extras in the orchestra, as well as the framework for the rehearsal schedule, whether it's 4 or 5 rehearsals. These are all good things, of course, for you to know and be aware of. And the earlier you can get some of these things clarified, the smoother things will be as you go down the line. So now that you have your commission, let's talk about the actual anatomy of it and all of its parts. We'll talk through the following things. Once your fee is settled, expected clauses and language you'll see in the contract. The instrumentation for the piece and the context of the program, including things like instruments or doublings. The timeline for your project and deadlines along the way, as well as the premiere week, the exciting point. So you've been offered a commission to write a work that's 10 minutes, or sorry, you've been offered a fee to write a work that is 10 minutes in length. First, you should be thinking about the fee and what it entails. Once that's decided and you receive the contract, you'll want to pay attention to the clauses that outline the payment structure, rights and royalties, the timeline and deadlines, and importantly, their expected exclusivity. So as I mentioned, by the time you get your commission offer, the orchestra has already determined many things. First being the fee that they offer you. Is it something that it is something they have fit into their commissioning budget as part of their larger season budget. So what is the fee they have offered you? Have they offered to cover or contribute towards copying costs? Many orchestras will commission according to the Canadian League of Composers rate per minute. And while it is a good start, sometimes it's worth remembering it is a minimum, not a maximum. Admittedly, fortunately, I was in a fortunate position at the NAC where I was always able to commission at a rate higher than the CLC, but I recognize not every organization is in that position. So ultimately, you have to ask yourself, is the project worth taking for the fee that they have offered? You have to determine whether this is the right project for you and where you are in your career, and only you can answer that. And while the feeling of feast or famine can set in, you want to make sure you're agreeing for the right reasons. Like maybe this is the big break with this orchestra that you've been working towards and waiting for. If you do feel you'd like to negotiate the fee and ask for more, be reasonable in doing so. If you ask them to double the fee, you might lose it entirely, and that opportunity might not come around again. So let's talk about copying costs. If they haven't offered you a separate fee for copying and instead making it inclusive as part of the commission fee, this could be your negotiation tactic. You don't want to take money out of your fee to pay for a copyist, essentially taking from your own income to do this. So perhaps instead of asking for a higher fee, you ask that they offer money towards copying instead. So now that you've settled the fee, of course, you'll receive the contract. And when you do get it, make sure you read everything carefully. If you don't understand the legalese or something doesn't seem right, ask questions, ask for help. There are entertainment lawyers who may review contracts pro bono or for a lesser fee, or you can reach out to friends and colleagues or trusted mentors to ask for advice. You want to make sure that you understand all parts outlined before signing, from the payment structure to the timeline and deadlines, to the exclusivity of the work and right of refusal for recording. It sounds like a no-brainer, but never sign something you don't fully understand. So when it comes to payment, typically with an orchestra, a payment structure will be 50% upon signing, like a down payment, with the remaining 50% paid upon delivery of your score and parts. You want to avoid the second payment to be made at the premiere of the concert. You should be paid when you have completed your work, and your work is completed when you submit your final score and parts. If you charge GST or HST or QST or whichever tax, make sure it's included as part of the contract, your registration number is listed, and it's also listed on any subsequent invoices you send. Moving on to rights and royalties. It's always important to remember that in every instance, you own and will always own 100% of your work. The copyright is yours. All royalties from the performance or the work are yours. If they try to negotiate or say otherwise, you can question them on this. The CLC website, the Screen Composers Guild of Canada, and musiccreator.ca are all really great resources to help break things down and help you understand this better. And of course, talking about royalties, you always want to make sure you are registered with SOCAN. You do not want to leave any money on the table. Royalties are an important additional income for your works. And of course, everything I'm talking about here, the rights and royalties, are specific to orchestra and ensemble commissions. When it comes to work with text, if the librettist is living, there will be a royalty split between composer and librettist. And opera and dance are also completely different and involve things like grand rights, both of which are topics for another conversation on another day. Coming to the timeline and deadlines. You want to make sure the timeline is clearly laid out for the commission project, from when the score and parts are due, any scheduled workshops or meetings, through to the premiere date, making sure all deadlines are clearly stated throughout. And speaking of the world premiere date, most, if not all, orchestras will invite you to attend the concert on which your piece will receive its premiere. So make sure the contract outlines exactly what they will cover to bring you to their city for the performance. Often they'll cover travel and hotel. Some might offer a per diem, in addition to comp tickets to attend the concerts. It may also be worth including in the timeline any ancillary events you will participate in, whether it's media ahead of the premiere, talks during the concert week, or even education workshops. Exclusivity. Orchestras are always very excited and very proud to commission. They love to be able to say that they've commissioned the work and they've given the world premiere and they were the first. And by this, they will want to protect their exclusivity on the work for at least 1 to 2 years, meaning no one else can perform it during this time. Some might even want to protect premieres in other cities, like if they're thinking ahead to tours. But, and there's always a but, it's quite possible a request to perform the work might come from another orchestra during this exclusive period. So you want to make sure that that possibility is also protected for you in the contract. This can be done by ensuring language is included that says something along the lines of permissions will not be unreasonably withheld for these types of requests. The commissioning orchestra will likely also want right of first refusal for a commercial recording, and possibly the non-exclusive right to record it in perpetuity, meaning they could record it anywhere down the line, even if they're not the first orchestra to record it. They may also want to live stream the premiere or any subsequent performances of your work. That is also a really great thing. But if any of these happen, they should be done under separate licensing agreements, not the commission agreement, unless you specifically work that in. So remembering, a commission agreement outlines all the parameters for your work. This is why you must understand everything in the agreement before signing. You don't want to be surprised down the road. And lastly, remember that communication is key throughout this entire process. If you're uncertain about something, ask questions. There are never any bad questions. Moving on. Now, with their commission offer, they've likely asked for specific instrumentation. This has been done practically as it must fit the orchestra's size or fit the instrumentation for the program the commission will be included on. Most often, you're writing for the orchestra's core ensemble, but that does look different for every organization. Big orchestras like Toronto and Montreal will carry triple winds. The NAC Orchestra in Calgary have double winds, and smaller orchestras like Symphony Nova Scotia don't have low brass. There are circumstances where there may be a bit of flexibility with instrumentation. For instance, you weren't offered harp, but you would really love to have it. Ask if it's possible. See if you could trade something, like you don't want a second percussion, you'd rather have harp. They might say yes. But if they still say no, it's not about you. Ultimately, any change that requires additional players or equipment will have budget implications. It always comes back to the budget. It's about the realities of their program and their larger season. The same applies to doublings and other special requirements. When in doubt, ask early. It's always easier to adjust your plan ahead of time than trying to adjust the final score. Orchestras aren't trying to limit your creativity. They're often just trying to make the concert work. So with all of this in mind, it makes sense to ask programmatic questions. What else is on the program? Is there a theme to the concert? This will help you think programmatically about your piece and how it will fit into the larger narrative of the concert. and as well, importantly, the audience's experience of your work. Lastly, consult with musicians in the orchestra. If you're thinking to include any major solos, ask how you can communicate with those musicians. These conversations will help you play to their strengths and helps with your relationship building. The musicians will see you care enough to talk with them and ask, and this will go a long way. And who knows, it could even lead to a future commission from them down the road. So moving forward, we have our instrumentation. Now our timeline and deadlines. It's likely the commission request is coming to you 9 to 18 months out from the premiere. This allows you to see if and how it fits with your own composition and life schedule, and how you can make it work. The deadline for the final score and parts will typically be about 3 to 6 months out from the premiere date, or more, depending on the scope of the project. Sometimes the score might be due first, sometimes the score and parts are both due together. If there are workshops, of course, if you are writing for voice or choir with orchestra, the deadline for the piano vocal score will be first, naturally after you orchestrate it, the score and orchestra score and parts coming later. If there are workshops built in along the way for the project, make sure you know what is due when. Do not let there be any vagueness. And make sure, if you are working with a copyist, all of this is clearly communicated with them. They need to know these deadlines just as much as you do. And speaking of score and parts, another very important person to make friends with is the librarian. Trust me, you don't want to get on their bad side. Always touch base with the librarian first and see how they'd like to receive the materials and in what format. They will likely want everything by PDF, but there may be specific formatting that they will request ahead of time. Most librarians will work by MOLA standards, MOLA being the Major Orchestras Librarian Association. So it may be worth familiarizing yourself with those guidelines. You will want to share these details with your copyist as well. And of course, while I can sit here and list out all the reasons why you should make all your deadlines with no excuses and no exceptions, life happens. Unexpected wrenches are thrown into your well-laid plans. If you find yourself worried you will be late with a deadline, then give the organization a good heads up about it. Don't wait until a few days before to say, hey, I think I'm going to need more time. And if you ask for more time, be honest about what you need and then make sure you meet it. And please, please, whatever you do, do not ghost them. Whether it's the artistic administrator or the librarian, if they're writing to inquire about the status of the work and you're in full-on panic mode because you're behind schedule, silence does not work in your favor. Communication is key here. They will want you to be honest with them and will want to work with you on a solution that is mutually beneficial. Remember, missing deadlines without communication is one of the quickest ways to damage trust with an organization. And trust is the currency of this field. I really tried to think of something clever and like musical instead of saying currency, but I couldn't come up with one. Okay, so the premiere week. Fast forward. The contract is signed, the piece has been written, submitted on time. Here we are at the concert week, where your work will receive its long-awaited world premiere. Your travel has gone smoothly. The hotel they've put you up in is quite lovely and within walking distance from the concert hall. And you have that check in your pocket for your per diem. Or maybe it's been direct deposited to you. I guess we don't really do checks that much anymore. So now what? You will have received an itinerary outlining your time with the orchestra for the week. It will include the rehearsal schedule, concerts, anything else expected of you. like if you are speaking to donors during a rehearsal break, participating in a pre or post-concert talk, or any other social events that may happen, like receptions or post-concert dinners. For the rehearsal schedule, it's likely that your work will be included on one, possibly two rehearsals in addition to the dress rehearsal. Prior to that first rehearsal, make sure you are meeting with the music director or the conductor. This gives you a chance to get in front of them, introduce yourself, and let them ask you any questions. Double check notes, tempi, or anything else, and make sure you're prepared for it. Be well dressed. I know it goes without saying. And avoid running in at the last minute, especially if this is the first time you're meeting this orchestra. First impressions are lasting ones. Make sure you know where you're going too. Know how the access works, from stage door to credentials, who's meeting you, do you have a dressing room? And once you're backstage, take a moment to familiarize yourself with your surroundings. And importantly, learn how to get from backstage into the concert hall. And of course, once you're in rehearsal, sit close enough to the stage so that you can speak with the conductor. Don't go hiding in the back of the hall. And lastly, importantly, discuss the bows in advance. Are you going on stage for your bow? Are you standing in your seat with a spotlight shone upon you? And if you are going on stage, make sure you know how you're getting there and who's taking you. And give yourself enough time to get there. And lastly, making sure the conductor or the music director knows from which side of the stage you will be entering. This is your big moment, everything you've worked for. Soak it all in. So we've just taken a very quick dive through the anatomy of the commission. We've talked about all the details to think about from when you receive the commission through to the contract, through to the premiere week. It's a lot of information to absorb. But let's talk about how we get there. If there's something I can impress upon you, again, it's about building relationships. They can be considered the lifeblood of your work. Networking is so important. I know it can be hard and sometimes out of some of your comfort zones, but it's better to think of it less as promoting yourself and more as staying in conversation. When you're networking, do send emails to orchestras and chamber groups to share your music. Find out who the artistic programmer is and direct the emails to them. But remember, an artistic administrator's time is valuable. They receive tons of emails, so they will only have so much time to read your email. Instead of listing your entire catalog and extolling the virtue for every piece, choose one or two that you'd really like performed. Include listening links where you can. You might get a response, you may not. As I said earlier, I was guilty of often not responding to emails. However, no answer does not mean that they haven't read it. It's possible that now is not the right time for your work or project with them, and that they will remember when the right time does come along. And if you don't hear anything in 3 to 6 months, I'd encourage you to follow up. Send a gentle nudge of inquiry. Maybe include an update, but whatever you do, don't be annoying about it. And get out there and be social. Attend concerts, attend open rehearsals, meet with conductors and visiting guest artists, make friends with musicians in the orchestra. These are all potential champions of your work. And as I mentioned earlier, remember that commissions don't come from cold submissions. They come from conversations that unfold over time, often long before that contract is on the table. And lastly, never underestimate the work that an administrator is doing about you or on you. Maybe they've listened to your chamber music and want to program that first before diving into your orchestral music. Or maybe they know about a work you wrote for another orchestra and have inquired with that orchestra about how that working process was. And that leads us to talking about consortium or consortia. This is often how these consortiums can develop. They don't start with formal calls, but instead grow out of conversations and research between colleagues. An orchestra may be excited about working with a composer, with you, but unable to support the commission on their own. So when other organizations share that same interest, they join in together. Each contribute a portion of the fee in exchange for performances and a shared investment in the work. Typically, there's a lead partner who shapes the timeline and premiere, and additional partners will come on board either at the outset or gradually over time. And like many things in our field, consortia tend to develop through relationships, trust, and a shared artistic vision. And as a composer, it's important to remember that your role is to continue this relationship building that supports the project. So meeting with the orchestras, joining artistic conversations, and helping them feel connected to your work and the collective artistic vision. So we have come to the end. I have a few final thoughts to leave you with about commissions. I know they're the bread and butter. Their income, they're a feeling of pride, of notoriety, of feeling like you've made it. And we all want commissions to have second and third and fourth performances. No one wants their work to live and die on the premiere. So this is where your networking comes in, and having a recording of your work to share. Help get those further performances and important secondary income from rentals and royalties. But also, let's go back to what we discussed earlier about the commission itself. Is it worth taking financially? Is it at a strategic point in your career? Will it move you forwards or backwards? Sometimes the most strategic decision you can make is to say no. Whether it doesn't fit in your own timeline, or you don't feel the offered commission fee doesn't equal the time you would be committing to writing it. However, it's okay to say yes for exactly that same reason, especially if it's that foot in the door with that orchestra you've been waiting for. Yes, no, whatever the decision, it only has to matter to you and always be made on your terms. Remember, every commission is more than a piece. And if there's anything I hope you can take away from today, careers are built in this field through momentum, and momentum comes from trust, built one project, one conversation, and one relationship at a time. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie. Shall we open it up to some questions? Feel free to raise your hand or just unmute yourself. Actually, I have a question. You talked about quite a bit, but as a conductor, I'm often spammed by composers wanting me to, program their works. I'm not, it's not always that I'm able to accommodate that as much as I would like. But do you have any pro tips on how to to write that email, to start those conversations, to be in the right place at the right time? Because most of the composers that I have commissioned and worked with are folks that I've had multiple touches with in multiple ways and circles, and some of them came about very organically, and then others were more strategic. I guess one thing that I would say to composers is make sure you're very professional and very polite, because if when you're writing to someone, I've received all kinds of things from composers and all kinds of wording, and then proceeded to be spammed by them, which will not really get anywhere with me, regardless. But yeah, I was, as someone that spends a lot of time with composers, a lot of those relationships turned out to be quite organic. But do you have some pro tips for us as to how to get in front of the right people and how to start those conversations in a way that's not annoying and not spammy, and that is also very authentic to who you are as a creator.
Yeah, I think it comes back to building those relationships and getting yourself out there. And so, I mean, luckily now with Zoom and we have so many ways of connecting. So it's more than just email. We can attend talks like you're attending today, making connections that way. And of course, in your city, going to concerts, meeting the conductors, meeting the soloists, meeting the musicians, getting your name out there in that way. So it does feel organic and it doesn't feel awkward or weird. And saying like, hey, is it okay if I send you some materials? Of course they're going to say yes because they'll be interested and they'll want to learn more. Everyone is always genuinely interested in wanting to learn more about you and your music. It really then comes back to that timing. And so I think it's really just about building those relationships over time. And sometimes I remember with my work at the NAC Orchestra, there were some composers that once we commissioned them, they ended up receiving multiple commissions down like over the years just because they were fitting what we needed at that time, their artistic voice. That doesn't mean we didn't have one-off commissions with other composers, but it sometimes is, shouldn't say sometimes, it really is about building those relationships and following up nicely in those nice ways and not the spammy ways.
I have a question. Hi, yeah, Esther. I'm also known as Esther. So you recommend to connect with conductors, attend concerts, and maybe a silly question, but when usually is a good time to approach the conductor? Like, is it after the concert or before the concert, or like I'm not really sure. That would be, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would always recommend not before a concert. Their mind will be entirely focused on the concert, so they might meet you, but it will be, they might not really remember.
Right.
So to make a better impression, always after the concert. And a great way to get backstage to meet the conductor is going through the administration. Um, and so getting your name on the backstage list so you can get backstage. And then that kind of then helps with your relationship building with the administrators in the orchestra or the ensemble. If you're
Wait,
able to,
yeah.
oh,
When
oh,
you
go
say
ahead.
administrator, sorry, is that the administrator of the orchestra
Yeah,
or the concert hall
no,
or?
the orchestra.
Okay. Okay.
Always with the orchestra. So here in Ottawa, the NAC Orchestra, you would want to get in touch with Daphne Burt or Jeremy Gates. They would be the people to help facilitate those introductions, get you on the stage backstage list. If you're able to attend rehearsals, typically a dress rehearsal, of course, will be open.
Okay.
That is almost a better way than a concert because
Yeah.
the conductor will often be a little bit more relaxed, may have a little bit more time to chat with you and learn about you. Um, I would always recommend don't come armed with scores because they won't
Right.
know what to do with them. And I'm not sure how many people are carrying scores around with them anymore. Um, but just, yeah, touching base with them, asking if you can follow up. Many conductors, I remember over the years, many would just be like, yeah, send me an email. And they'd give the composer their email and then I'd be there with the composer saying, please follow up, make sure they've given this to you. Don't miss out on this. Like introduce them to your music.
Right. Okay, so you're saying just more of approach them, attend their rehearsals, introduce yourself, get to know their music, get to know them, just like a a meeting, like
Yeah.
casual meet.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it doesn't have to be super formal. Like it all can take place in a couple minutes outside their
Okay.
dressing room.
And the way that you would contact the administrator,
Mhm.
do you just let them know that, hey, I'm a local composer, I'd like to attend a dress rehearsal, and so
Yeah,
just that simple? Okay.
it should be. I will say
Uh,
it should be.
okay.
We're at the NAC. We
Okay.
always, there were always requests coming in, for composers, young conductors, or visiting people in town.
Okay.
And yeah, we would put them on the list and let them into rehearsal.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the information.
And
I was wondering for cold calling, sending materials, do you have any advice on like, should you send like a full multi-movement symphonic work, a concerto? Like, do you want to cap it at kind of like a 5 minute, like this could be an easy addition to a concert rather than like this could be your whole first half of a concert? Is there a scale for how those are received?
Yes, I think start small and add big.
Hmm.
So kind of like here is a piece, not that I want to limit it to a concert opener, because as we know, that's always a point, like a bugaboo about how Canadian works or new works are only ever programmed as the opening works on the program. So
Hmm.
I say this with that in mind. If you do have a shorter work that you think would work well as an opening piece and a good introduction to your music, you can start with that and then lead in and say, and I have this great concerto that X soloist has performed, or this would be a really great concerto for your principal, whichever instrument, like for your concert, a great feature for your concert master. And I also have this amazing 40-minute 5 movement work. So that's why I would say, like, be strategic about how you introduce yourself and your music. You really want to put your best representation forward.
I would like to add a little to the previous question. We do get unsolicited works. As a composer, please make sure you don't send original copies out. Please do not send your full score to the artist or to the agents. I respect that it is an investment, but it's an investment on your side, not an expense on my side. So it becomes very difficult for me to be mailing back packages and CDs. And, I represented a number of string quartets over the years, and I'd get all four parts in the mail. And, just the returning that package was $30-40 in postage, as all of you know. So please do connect with both either the agent or the artist. And as Stephanie mentioned, that relationship building is critical. It's very hard to just walk up and say, here, play my work.
Mhm.
Artists need to program their repertoire strategically over the next 8 months, 16 months. The development of that repertoire has to fit within their touring activities. So to just parachute a new work at them is not going to be that successful. Get to know the artists, get to talk to them, understand what they're looking for. It's that relationship building. And I often also remind emerging artists that in our business, there's a saying that work gets you work. And if you do if the stars align and you have that wonderful, wonderful opportunity of the premiere of your work, take that and spread the news. Take that opportunity to blow it up in your social media, in your newsletter writing, in your postcard writing, in whatever method. Get that information out. As an agent, what often happens is there's a piece of music that's collecting dust on your shelf, and I get it, you know, 2 years after the premiere. You have the premiere. Please spread the news with that. So, thank you again to the gang. Wonderful job.
My first question is, or the question, it goes back to commissioning rates. And so I do my best with the CLC commissioning rates, but I'm starting to get more and more asks about music that's 20 minutes longer than what, and then I struggle to find a fee that is reasonable, but that doesn't then end up costing less than the recommended fee up to 20 minutes. And I don't know if there's like any guidance. I might have missed that because I've had to jump in and out a little bit here. The website is great, but then it says all categories to be negotiated, and I find that part really challenging because I never know, and I think a lot of people struggle with that. And I talk to my friends in the industry, and they're like, "Well, just follow CLC," and then so no, there's like no help beyond that 20 minutes. Maybe this is a question better for the CLC, but I don't know if there's any. Also, I will say that in my experience, orchestras are always asking me for less than this minimum CLC rates for things. I don't know if that's because I'm emerging or because I'm an Indigenous composer. I'm very lucky to have friends who advocate for me in those spaces to get it up to at least the minimum recommended rate. But right now I'm working with an orchestra that we don't know what to pay me. I don't know what to charge because the piece is like 50 minutes long. Yeah,
50.
I'm not
15 or 50?
50.
50. Okay. Yeah. So I think you've asked a lot of really great questions in there. I'm going to see if I can remember all of them. I think, I mean, one, the fact that emerging indigenous, like none of that should matter. You are a composer, full stop, and you should be paid what you're due. That said, I mean, there are always going to be instances depending on the organization, what they can afford. There might need to be some negotiation. And when you get to works that are 20 minutes in length or beyond, you really have to make sure that you're negotiating a fee that is fair. Obviously, you don't want $10,000 to write like a 50 minute work. Like that doesn't make sense. Some of it then, depending on what they're offering you, maybe your negotiation there is that the length comes down. Like if they are just like, this is all we can offer you, then you're like, okay, well then for this amount of money, this is what I can write. You don't want to just make sure that you're always agreeing because this is where some of that agency, like there's all the agency I talked about like building relationships and communication, but then, I mean, ultimately, this is your career. And so, and this is your work. And so you want to make sure that the work you are doing is being paid for. And if you have to make concessions and take a lower fee, that you're kind of getting it back in other ways. So maybe they are offering towards copying or coming, when it comes to the premiere, there's additional things that they are offering, kind of like those in-kind type things. So I think use your best judgment, really. I mean, there's no hard or easy answer for it, I guess. I hope that helps.
I mean, it helps a little bit. I'm just like, because I really like what you said about relationships and building those conversations and all the considerations to think of and some things that I never thought of that are really important. And I also wish some of my friends were here to hear this. But I think this whole like where I'm at, getting asked to do longer pieces is a real challenge, and I think maybe other composers struggle with that as well.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not in a space where I've commissioned works from people in the States where like 25 minutes, this is like they don't, even if it's longer than 20, they still stick to their per minute fee, which is great for them in the States, but I don't, yeah, I guess it's just there's no answer, but I'll take everything into consideration, and it's difficult, right? Like, yeah.
It
Thanks,
really,
though.
it really is. I mean, if you want, connect with me later and we can talk more about it if you'd like.
Okay, great.
If
Yeah, I
there's
would
anything
actually.
else I
Yeah.
could help offer.
Yeah,
If it's
thanks.
helpful. And we, you know, as a smaller, more flexible organization with Allegra, something that we were able to work out with composers when it wasn't quite, they wanted to do something that was a bit out of our budget, is that we did offer them workshops on other works. We tagged that on too. So like it was like
Mhm.
that reciprocal relationship that we both feel like we're getting value out of this relationship, even though if it might not be exactly textbook. I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Kind
Yeah.
of what we've done in the past with Allegra.
And
And
co-commissioners.
Diana was next. Go ahead. Yes, co-commissions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. My name is Diana Taylor. I'm an emerging composer from Edmonton, Alberta. And first of all, thank you so much for this session. It was really helpful. And yeah, I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but it was amazing. So thank you for that. I just have a question. If you have any pro tips for cold calling a choir or perhaps a smaller chamber ensemble rather than an orchestra, that would make things perhaps a little bit different than sort of the formats that you've described with a larger orchestra that has, like librarians and, outreach people and whatnot. And another question, or perhaps part of it, is in that cold call, would you recommend sending kind of a proposal of a work that you would love to create for them? Or is it generally more like, I don't know, better outcome if you more just send a sample of the work that you've already created and just leave it open? And third part of this question, I promise, is what if you really want to write for their group of instrumentation, but you haven't written anything with those specific instruments yet? Would you recommend just maybe writing a couple of sketches and sending the scores, or is it okay to be like, hey, I haven't done this yet, but here is my other work, and I would really love to try this?
All fantastic
Internet's being
questions
slow
as
again.
well. So where to start? I think with the last part, I wouldn't send sketches for the piece. Like if you're writing to them and you really want to write for this ensemble, sharing with them why you want to write for them and like that this would be your first time writing for them, like for this type of ensemble. But then give examples of works that you've already done. Of course, like they're going to want to know that you have work written, that you had, there's like some credibility behind you. You're not just some random person who's reaching out to them, even though you kind of are. You want to prove to them, like not prove, sorry, show them that you can write music and here are samples of your music so that they can hear your sound world and then see if your sound world would be a fit for them as an ensemble. And I think same with reaching out to choirs. I have a little bit less experience in that regard, but I think it's that same thing. You don't want to approach any ensemble or choir or organization and just say, you have to commission me. I have this amazing idea for you, and here is why, especially if they don't know you. So it kind of comes back to that relationship building. Introducing yourself to them. Here are samples of my music. And I have this really great idea that I think would work well. And here is why, based on other projects choir X you have done. And so you always want to make sure that you're showing them that you have done the research about them and why you think that this would be a good fit. So whatever the connection you feel, like you love their programming aesthetic and you think your music would fit in there well, or you love the ensemble, the makeup of the ensemble, like they're like a what's it, like a Piero Lunaire sextet type thing. So you need to make those connection points as to why you're reaching out to them. but not right away being like, you should commission me, and here is why. Did I miss anything in there?
No, that was an excellent answer. So just to be clear, so
Yeah.
one email though, but just like, hey, like this is what I love about you. I love your aesthetic in this regard. Here's some examples of my sound world that I'd like to share with you. And in the future, I would love to write la 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 for you, but all in the same email to, yeah.
Yeah. I
Great.
think it would be fine to include it all in the same email, um, as long as you're not leading with the commission,
Got it.
working up to it. And if you have, like, if you are writing to a choir and you have choral works, include them
Yeah.
for consideration. And I mean, you could always start with that, even just to say, here are some works for your programming consideration. I would also love the opportunity to write a new work for you.
Well, that is lovely. Thank you very much. And thanks again for the great session.
Thanks.
Yeah, I would second. I mean, I second and third everything Stephanie said, but I would also say that there's been so many composers that have reached out to me not knowing anything about my ensemble. It's obvious that they know nothing and sending me things that are completely like not our instrumentation. And so it's like, well, you haven't taken the time to like look at the website. So I'm probably not going to be circling back with you. You had us like that relationship piece. You have to go back and forth and not just be cold calling without actually like making sure that you're the right fit. So yeah, reiterating that. Stephanie, we are at our hour. Are you okay to take a few more questions? Or yeah, okay. We do have a queue here. So Lamia, go ahead. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really insightful to hear from your side how it all takes place in terms of commissions. But I had actually a question to do with something you brought up in a presentation to do with this commission consortia, and I guess it's something that relates to larger works. So do you have any strategies on how to successfully navigate that? Because I've also been commissioned larger work, but now it's placed in this space where, yes, it's a larger work, so it demands a bigger budget. We need to get co-commissioners on board. And should I lead with the organization who initially commissioned me, or should I go on my own and try to navigate this, how to get more people on board? Because it's a kind of a difficult spot right now in terms of making the work happen.
Yeah, that's also a great question. You guys are all asking fantastic questions today. I think if you have been offered the commission by one organization, you want to talk with them about finding co-commissioners. You don't want to just go off and find additional co-commissioners and then say to the original commissioning orchestra, like, hey, I have these co-commissioners who want to join, because it kind of like going back to thinking about the timeline and thing and exclusivity and all these things, then it can muddy the waters. So I think from the outset, having that conversation, or even if you are in process with this commission and for whatever reason, it's a big project, they're not able to fund it the way you had hoped, talk with them about bringing commissioners on, and then talk with them about seeing how you go about doing it. So do they have colleagues? Like, all artistic administrators talk to each other. So they can reach out to some colleagues and say, hey, we have this commission. This is, our timeline. We're looking to 28, 29 to program or to premiere this. Would you want to join in? Or you can do the same thing. Orchestra A is on board. We're looking for some additional co-commissioners. This is, the timeline again. I think with everything in there, what you have to be clear with on the money is then how the money is split. So if a second orchestra comes on, are the orchestras splitting your fee 50-50? And then what if a third commissioner comes on after that agreement is already made? Then does it reduce? Like there then become all these other factors in consideration. And I know of some people who have had consortium commissions where the contract was signed and there were 3 commissioners, but then all of a sudden all these additional commissioners, quote, came on and contracts were signed, but these additional commissioners never contributed any money to the commissioning fee. So there ended up being like, I don't know, 15 presenters of this work, but they only received the tiny, I don't want to say tiny, but the amount from the original three commissioners. So that is a difficult question to have in terms of the money and how the money would be split. Because it could mean, if more commissioners come on, more money for you. But then again, you have to have those discussions to determine those parameters from the beginning as you have the discussion about including more commissioners.
Okay, so again, just kind of lead with the main commissioner and try to navigate this relationship in them,
Yeah.
keeping them informed, or they trying to help me kind of relationship.
Yeah, because you'd look to them as being the lead commissioner because they are the first commissioning orchestra. So as lead commissioner, then they would still, hopefully that they would agree to remain the lead commissioner. They would take on all the project planning and project details of it. And typically that lead commissioner will end up contributing a little bit more money to have that notoriety of lead commissioner.
Okay, great. I'll try.
Good luck. It's a tricky one.
Yeah, well, thankfully it's not an orchestra. I don't know if it's thankfully or not, but still,
Yeah.
it's more of a festival kind of for commissioning.
Oh, okay.
And I'll add a little plug for Stephanie. She can help you iron out contracts like this, and if need be, she's an expert in that.
Hi. So I, again, super grateful for this session. Been very informative, and thank you so much. I wanted to ask, so sometimes I've reached out to student ensembles because one of my, because I'm, music teacher and then a composer, I want to write music that students can play. And something that I have come up against a number of times is I've, approached student-led or student groups. I've approached the conductor and they have like zero money. And then they say, well, if you want to write a grant to pay yourself, then great. Um, and I feel that that's a little bit like putting the cart before the horse. It almost feels a little bit backwards, but is that kind of normal? Or is that just them trying to put it all on me because maybe they're busy or lazy?
So, which it can feel that it's both they're busy and lazy. I understand. I will say, since switching to this side, I have realized kind of how privileged I was with the NAC orchestra, that we were in a position to always commission and offer really, I would say, great fees and everything. But now switching to this side, I am learning that this often is the case. Ensembles, orchestras, whoever are saying, we would love to commission you, but you have to write the grant to pay yourself. But we'll cover all the production costs of the premiere. So I'm finding that equally frustrating because I am like, well, where is your investment in the piece? Like you want to have the world premiere, you want all of this exclusivity and everything that goes along with it. And I feel like that is a missing piece. That said, I am understanding it is how some organizations are working. And I think especially smaller ones like schools who really might not have any money. So I think you have to weigh, that's where it really comes to this decision of weighing your time and the money. So your time to write the grant, and then the time of waiting to find out if you're successful or not. It's almost like you have to make the decision, like you're gonna do this, you're gonna apply for the grant, regardless whether you get all or any of the money, you're still gonna go through with the project, or you make the decision with the ensemble that if the grant money doesn't come through, you're not writing the piece. And maybe they're finding other ways to help fund it. So depending on what kind of school it is, like if it's like a high school, maybe the school board, maybe there are grants they can get through the school board, or if it's university, I find universities where I'm learning, there tend to be little pockets of money where they could actually put it towards commissions or supporting. So I think, yeah, that there's no easy answer, but thank you for writing music for student ensembles. That's really,
Yeah.
really important. And I know we can get like caught up in orchestra and like all these things about professional performances, but we need that good music that is going to help the students learn so
Yeah.
that they can then move forward into that professional level.
Yeah, it was really tricky with one because they approached me and I wanted to do it, but also like as a young person, as a woman, it's like there's a part of me that gets triggered of like, am I being taken advantage of? Is this normal? So it's good to hear that that's like kind of normal.
Yeah.
Because I sort of like red flags went up of just like, oh, you want me to do everything?
Yeah,
Because writing grants is almost as much work as writing the piece. So thank you very
absolutely.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you get to other people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Thanks for a great session. It was, yeah, I definitely learned a lot. My question was, so let's say you have an opportunity, like a good opportunity, you have a commission that's, gonna get you some visibility maybe. And my question is sort of like, other than writing a good piece and being professional and meeting all your deadlines, what are the ways to sort of maximize a good opportunity to leverage and capitalize on, uh, how you can use that to sort of push yourself to the next level or set yourself up for other opportunities down the line? Um, yeah.
Yeah, great question. So I think that is where, if you're able to get a recording, orchestras especially will make you sign paperwork uh, so that you can receive an archive recording, which of course, there's all these stipulations. You can't put it on your website, or you can only put 30 seconds. You can only use it for educational purposes. You can't promote it anywhere. But you can, if you're writing to other orchestras, you can share. I have this archive recording from the world premiere by X orchestra. Administrators, maybe this is way too inside baseball, but administrators share archive recordings all the time. This is how we're learning about music, especially if we're interested in programming the pieces. So if you can get that recording, share it, when you're writing to other orchestras or ensembles or to whomever, to get this piece written again. And to Andrew's point, I don't know if oh yeah, he's still here. To Andrew's point, um, promoting yourself, like promoting your music and sharing these successes on social media. Social media has such a huge reach now. So of course, if you have like a photo or a reel or something and you are only using like 10, 20 seconds of your piece, you could probably get away with it, but do not quote me on that. Um, but like putting it out there that way, I find often now I'm learning about pieces or composers or even festivals or residencies or programs. A lot of it is just scrolling on Instagram and going, oh, who's this composer? I don't know about them. And then I watch the reel or I'm looking at the post and then I'm going and I'm looking them up and then I'm on their website and I'm listening to their music. Oh, that reminds me, that's a very important thing. And I didn't touch upon it in the presentation. Make sure you have really good representative websites. You want to make sure it's easily navigatable. When they go there, they can read about you, they can find your music. And so whether you have your works list listed with like an attached program note, Make sure the instrumentation is visible. If you have a recording, add the link there. Kind of make it a nice one-stop shop so that if they're curious about you, however they came to learning about you and your music, you are fully represented there. And then there's a contact way for them to get in touch with you. So I think, I don't know if I'm entirely answering the question, but it really is about putting yourself out there, however you are doing it. And then hopefully, someone is paying attention. Like I said, never underestimate to this point the research that administrators are doing or commissioners are doing on you, about you, so that they're reaching out to you. And whether it is they want to program your work or whether it is, hey, we have this, we really love your piece about the environment. We have a festival about climate coming up. We want to commission you for a 10-minute piece specifically about the ozone layer, right? Like, so this is the way administrators are thinking. And so, yeah.
Can I, with a follow-up question on the social media part? I think I tend to share sort of like, okay, I did the premiere, here's the whole piece. But do you think, like, how important is sort of like clipping stuff and like continuously resharing works? Like, I tend to feel like, oh, I don't want to sort of oversaturate or something, but maybe I should be, going back into my catalog and clipping videos and putting those out there. It's like, oh yeah, this still exists. Is that, how much should I be doing that kind of thing?
On social media
On social
specifically?
media, well, specifically, I mean, I guess,
I think
yeah.
it's yeah, I think it's worthwhile because again, it's introducing people to your music. And it's really about getting them interested, like getting them to hear your music, getting them interested so that they then make that next step to looking at your website and contacting you to talk to you about it. So even if it is a piece that's 10 years old and you have a performance of it, find a way to weave it in like, oh, I can't believe 10 years ago I had the premiere of this piece. And so just making, yeah, I think a good thing to do.
Okay, yeah, I need to get on top of that a little more.
It's not fun. Social media is hard.
Well,
I
it's time
when I
consuming
was just
also,
doing it
but
personally, I was like, "Oh, this is so fun." And now that I have to do it for TAM, like this is really hard.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
you're
Great.
welcome.
Yes, I can second that again with that. When I'm programming, that's one of the first things I do is Google uh, uh, composers that I'm interested in or that I've come across on social media, and if they don't have a page where I can look at their stuff or your CMC profile, make sure that's up to date. And if you don't have a personal website, a CMC profile is a good stand-in. But that's one of my first, lines of investigation. If I come across a new composer, is your personal website. I want to know about you and your story and your approach, and then also filling out and updating your CMC website so that we can promote you more. But yeah, great. Thank you so much to everyone for coming. This was a wonderful session, and thank you so much to Stefani for sharing so much of your experience and expertise with us. We'll be back next week with another session. So if you had questions we didn't get to today, or that come up during the week as you kind of digest all of this, make sure to bring that to the next session, and we'll make sure we have time for that. And we really look forward to continuing this conversation and making it work better for both presenters and composers going forward. So once again, thanks again to Stefani. We'll post the recording if you want to revisit anything in the days to come. And we look forward to the next session as well if you're able to make it.